Hello everyone, it's Lydia. Today we are going to be diving into the topic of adrenal health. So fasten your seatbelt and listen up because this topic is going to apply to everyone, absolutely everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lydia Joy. I'm a nutritional therapist and I help women increase their energy, balance their hormones, and find their joy. And I've been working at this for years, and I happen to know that adrenal health is so critical and so crucial. And if you want overall health or to obtain your other health goals, whatever they may be, this is going to be important information for you. So I'm excited to talk about it today. If you're here, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out today to join me, and I would love to hear from you. Pop by and say hi. What I want to ask first, because I feel like this topic is so vast and kind of like, what the heck does it even really mean when we say adrenal fatigue, or what is my adrenal health really? So when I say adrenals, and when I say adrenal health, and when I say adrenal fatigue, what comes to mind for you? Go ahead and comment below, because I think that there's a lot of maybe just confusion, maybe not very much clarity, maybe people don't really understand the vast role these little tiny glands play in your health. So I want to hear from you guys. What comes to mind for you when you hear the term adrenal fatigue? Go ahead and comment below. And maybe you don't even know what your adrenal glands are, but I bet you do, because you guys are all so educated and super into your health, and I think that's awesome. But in case you don't, while people are commenting below about what comes to mind for them about adrenal fatigue or adrenal health, let's talk about what these glands even are. They are one of our main energy producing glands. Oh, you can't see me at all? Oh, can you guys hear me? Can you see me? 1 second. I had a comment of someone saying they can't see me. So let's make sure that you guys can see me before I keep going. Oh, Mary can see me. Amy, you might want to hit refresh on your screen really quick. See, maybe it's something going on your end. Okay. So for those of you who are watching live, thank you again. Go ahead and comment below on what comes to mind for you or what you think adrenal fatigue is, okay? But let's talk about what the glands are to begin with. So a little bit of anatomy and physiology here for you. Basically, they're one of our main energy producing glands in the body. So pretty important right there when you think in terms of energy, the thyroid being our other. They're little glandular tissues. They pretty much are about the size of a walnut, and they sit on top of your kidneys. And there's different parts of the adrenal gland and everything like that. And I don't think we really need to go into all of that nitty-gritty stuff. But the adrenal glands are part of our sympathetic nervous system, and they secrete certain hormones, okay? And they play a role in our sex hormones as well. They play a role in our blood sugar. They have a really big role in our body because the hormones that they do secrete basically influence all the major physiological processes in your whole body. Okay, so this is why we hear all this terminology tossed around about adrenals, adrenal health, adrenal fatigue, because they're pretty darn important, right? And they also will have, an effect on the way you think and feel even. And their sole purpose is to help your body cope and survive, right? Pretty important. So when you're under stress, it's their job to help you cope with that stress. And stress isn't just, oh my God, I'm so stressed out, I have too much to do. Stress could be anything that your body perceives as a stress where you need to mount a response to it. So, it could be too much stimulation throughout the day, it could be being too busy, it could be emotional stress, physical stress, so on and so forth. could be toxins. So many things can qualify as stress, okay? So over time, our adrenals are bombarded with these stressors, and it really takes a toll on these precious glands. Hi, Brenda. So with that in mind, it's really important to understand these glands and the role they play in our body. But I also want to make some connections for you as to what other things you might be experiencing in your health and your symptoms that are going to be tied to the health of your adrenal glands. Because I think that people don't know all these different things, and maybe sometimes they wonder, why do I feel like this? Or maybe you think it's something's wrong with you and you just can't figure out how to overcome it. So I want to clarify that today. So stress is usually the key reason that we find ourselves with adrenal issues. But there's more than that. There's, if you were born to a mother who had weak adrenals for whatever reason, you could have basically inherited a poor quality adrenal sufficiency in the womb. So that's something to think about too. And I think that that's becoming a little bit more common. Lack of quality nutrition in our food is huge. We are all kind of products, if you will, of the processed food industry for however long it's been in existence. There's more toxicity in our world these days. And so we as a generation are more bombarded with this issue than ever before. So it's really important for us to understand it and come up with strategies to really support ourselves better and create a lifestyle around really nourishing our mind and our body so that we can improve our health and keep these glands healthy and happy. There is kind of a 3-stage stress general adaptation syndrome. Maybe you've heard of it from Hans Seidel. And so, it's kind of the old way of looking at how you end up in adrenal fatigue. You have this alarm reaction to stress, repeat over time, and then your body just can't keep producing the hormones after being in that level of stress for so long. Then you get into like a resistance stage where, your body starts to have a hard time balancing your electrolytes, and your carbohydrate metabolism suffers, and then you eventually end up in more of an exhaustion stage of stress, so to speak. Now, this isn't always how it happens, but this is the general idea of kind of the stages of stress that lead you into more of adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion, where these glands really aren't strong anymore. They can't produce effective hormone production, and they aren't resilient like they should be. So this is typically what practitioners will use to kind of clinically determine where you might be at with your adrenal health. We don't really need to worry about that right now today. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about some key concepts for you, and then some practical things that you can consider for yourself as you are trying to support this aspect of your health. So, in terms of our overall stress system, we also want to talk a little bit about the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Sorry to get a little nerdy here, but we have this HPA axis, and it correlates with our sympathetic nervous system, okay? So when we have a stress, like I was saying, and it's triggered by our hypothalamus is triggered by the stressor and releases hormones, and then, there's this chain of effect of hormonal reactions that are supposed to occur. So whenever we talk about adrenals, we really do have to address our brain as well. We have to understand there's a role that our brain plays. So our hypothalamus and our pituitary are closely involved in this as well. So a lot of times you'll hear people talking about just the adrenals, but we really need to look at, this brain signaling system as well. So sometimes we need to support the hypothalamus and pituitary as well. So keep that in mind, because our HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary axis, works on a certain circadian rhythm, and so do our adrenal hormones. Our adrenal hormone cortisol is probably one you've heard of, and our body likes to have kind of a rhythmic release of cortisol throughout the day. So when that gets imbalanced and our body no longer falls into this nice rhythm, things can be problematic for us, and we can have health issues. We can have, acute ones and chronic ones. So we have, and I'm going to be a little nerdy for just another minute. Bear with me on some of this stuff, and I'm going to get into the practicals in a minute. But we have 3 basic hormonal functions that our adrenals provide for us. Like I said, they do play a role in blood sugar. So the glucocorticoids are those hormones, and the adrenals play a role in that. Mineralocorticoids, and they help regulate our mineral balances, particularly sodium and potassium, which I've talked about in here quite a bit. And then they help produce sex hormones. And the sex hormones are basically steroid hormones that are produced from cholesterol. So any health issue or symptom that you may have that relates to your blood sugar, and not everybody is aware of blood sugar imbalances until it's too severe, like you have hypoglycemia or you have prediabetes or diabetes. So that's something I definitely need to talk about more so people understand, but I do want to at least mention it for now. Also, health issues like inflammation, anything that causes your body to have an inflammatory reaction, your adrenals are going to play a role in helping keep that balanced. Some people have excess sweating. Some people can't hold on to their electrolytes and they get dehydrated really easily. Your hormonal balance can be totally affected by your adrenals. So because your adrenals, if they run out of the ability to keep pumping out cortisol, they're going to steal from your sex hormones. So then you can get all these weird imbalances depending on where they steal from. You also can have things like food sensitivities and food allergies. You can have ligament issues, joint issues, because your adrenals kind of help to keep your core all supported. So that's something to know. I don't think a lot of people realize that. So if you have chronic issues of your joints or low back pain, maybe people who easily get things like inguinal hernias, so many things can correlate as well with the health of your adrenals. And there's supposedly 3 stages of adrenal fatigue. I'm not going to talk about that. I don't want to dwell on these stages because everybody's going to be in a different place. And the truth is we can support our adrenals anytime, no matter what. So I kind of skipped that part. Ultimately, it's about understanding your body. And if you really want to know more specifics about your own adrenal health, you will want to get testing done. And I'll talk about that in another video. Today, I just really want to kind of talk about some of the symptoms and the health concerns and what you can do, okay? And guys, thank you so much for stopping by today. If you have questions or anything while I'm talking, you're welcome to put them in the comments below. Today is just going to be my kind of introductory about this topic. I've been working with mostly women for years and years, and I have seen pretty much everyone have some level of adrenal fatigue or adrenal insufficiency or issues with this piece of their health. And so it really is a passion of mine to help support people with this, and it's been an issue for myself as well. I'm a single mom. I have 4 kids. I run my own business. I went through some pretty intense life stuff for many, many years that threw me into major adrenal exhaustion. And so when I talk about this, it's coming from my heart as well, because it's a really difficult place to be when you fall into this. And I really want to help people understand it before they get to a place of, this really deep adrenal exhaustion where it's really, really hard to pull out of. Because it can take some time to really heal these glands and really get to a point where you feel adequate energy and good health. Some of the more common things when you have a more severe adrenal case can be fatigue. You can even end up quickly into a fever, have more weakness, get sick more easily, headaches, dizziness on standing. That's a key sign. So if you are sitting down and you stand up suddenly and you feel dizzy, you probably have some hypoglycemia and some adrenal issues going on. Chronic pain. Some people don't even know what hypoglycemia really feels like until it's really bad. So really quick, I just want to say what happens is your blood sugar drops too low and you can feel irritable. So if you're getting to a meal and you're like what we call hangry, you're like so hungry and angry, you're like shoveling your food and you're finding yourself irritable, that's low blood sugar. That's kind of a hypoglycemic reaction. So just to spell that out for you, because I think most people aren't aware that's what's happening. Even GI issues can be connected to the health of your adrenal glands because they do play a role in helping with the inflammatory responses in our body. Even things like anorexia can be connected to adrenal issues. So if you have ongoing GI issues, it's definitely going to be important to also support your adrenal health. Even psychiatric issues, depression, apathy, irritability, sleep disturbances are a big one. I don't know anybody these days who sleeps great. That is like the ultimate complaint that I hear. And so that one's a big one. Difficulty concentrating, difficulty with your memory, confusion, things like that. If you find yourself really struggling even to do simple tasks like that should be really easy, you're probably pretty tired. You probably have some adrenal fatigue going on. Also, your cardiovascular health can suffer. You can have an increased heart rate. That one actually I hear a lot. Postural hypotension, which is basically what I just said. So if you stand up quickly and you're dizzy or you're getting dizzy and lightheaded from that, that's a biggie. And sometimes tachycardia even can be connected because there's usually a hard time for the body to hold on to potassium, for one thing. So there's a lot of things that correlate with you having healthy adrenals. And this is why it's so important. So if you have any of those and you're like, holy crap, I had no idea that's connected to my adrenals, comment below and tell me what you just learned or what you connected for yourself. And there's so many more things that could be connected here. So I wanted to share some of the broader things because I feel like people don't always make that connection. So if you're struggling with some of these issues over time and you haven't looked at the adrenal piece of your health, you could start to maybe incorporate some of the suggestions I'm going to make in a bit. So people with sleep issues, whether you have a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, you can't wake up in the morning, it could, be correlated to your body's circadian rhythm and your cortisol production. So that's something to think about too. All right. I want to talk about lifestyle because we live in this modern day of go, 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 and the women are taking care of everybody else. They're having the babies. They're nurturing everyone. They are taking care of everyone. And sometimes they suffer greatly from this because they don't have as much time to care for themselves and recover fully from having had children. So I do want to bring that up because the women are the ones that I most commonly work with. And if you've been around at all and heard me talk about minerals, you might have heard me say that every pregnancy a woman gives a good 10% of her mineral stores to her child. And most of the time we don't think about this because we're not educated by our doctors, and we don't prepare appropriately just because that's not really our cultural norm anymore. And so we become depleted after every pregnancy if we aren't able to, incorporate minerals and rebuilding our body. And I know for me, I have 4 kids. So I definitely got a little burnt out from having a lot of children. And so then when you have all the kids, you've got to take care of them. So this is a really big deal for mothers. It definitely still applies to people even if you haven't had children, and it definitely applies to men too. It's just that the moms are the ones that usually get hit the hardest. So women, if you have multiple children, this is going to be really important for you. And so that said, lifestyle is so key because we really need to focus on self-care. And I'm a big advocate for self-care, especially for mothers. And I really, truly believe that there are so many people that feel guilty if they take too much time for themselves, or there's other things that go on in our heads that, prevent us from, really supporting ourselves with self-care. So it's really important to have that piece intact, because you can't heal if you're just continually go, and continuing the burnout aspect and continuing that stress. So I just want to say that and encourage you to remember that, because it's so important. So I really, really encourage you to go find some self-care practices where you get to have rest, where you get to relax, where you get to enjoy yourself and take time away from the doing part of life, okay? The other thing that's so important, and this one's tricky because it can be kind of like something that takes time to really get ironed out, is sleep. And I think that really focusing on appropriate amount of sleep and getting to bed at a decent hour and allowing for a full night of rest is so key. So most of us don't always do that until we're so tired that we have to do it. So keep that in mind. If you're really struggling or your health isn't where you want it to be, the sleep piece is huge. You have to allow yourself adequate sleep so that you can heal. All right, and then another one is learning to say no. I know this isn't the stuff people really want to hear. They want what supplement should I take? What do I exactly do? If you're saying that right now, you really do need to listen to this part, because the lifestyle, the self-care, the learning to say no, to putting boundaries in our life is huge. And it's going to help us create like a framework for ourselves and for our lives so that we can minimize the stress. And it's so important. So learning to say no. So really remembering that you want to heal at a deeper level, that your body is not in this I'm totally optimal, I can do everything, I can move mountains mode. You do want to save some time for you so that your body can heal, so that when you do have to serve and love and care for and nurture everyone else, you're able to do so efficiently. So finding that healthy place in your life for boundaries and not taking on everything and, oh, sure, I'll do this. Oh, sure, I'll run the PTA. Oh, sure, I'll take all the snacks for every single game for my kids' softball, or, all these things. It's really important to love yourself and know your limits. And that is totally okay. You do not have to say yes to everything that comes your way. You just don't. And you really shouldn't. So that's my little kind of loving reminder for you guys, because I had to really embrace that myself. All right, and then one more before I get into the nutrition part is focusing on the positive. And this is hard, especially if you're feeling kind of low and your energy isn't great. Maybe you have a little bit of a mood imbalance because your adrenals are struggling. It can be a little harder to look on the bright side and feel positive and cheery. But it is important because your outlook is so huge for your overall health. So I really encourage you to find a simple practice, whether it's getting up every morning and spending 5 minutes journaling of what you're grateful for, or spend 5 minutes every day watching like a funny video, or, just find the positive in your life. Okay. All right. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you're somebody who has food sensitivities or allergies, not true allergies per se, but like, reactions to foods, your adrenals are going to play a big role in allergic reactions. So if you're really struggling with that, that's definitely something you want to think about is really supporting your adrenal health, because most allergies are going to have, basically it's about the histamine, okay? So our adrenals really play a role with this whole histamine issue. So whether it's a seasonal allergy or a food allergy, when histamine is released in excess, we need cortisol to help kind of reduce that. So if you don't have enough cortisol production, you're going to have a hard time, dealing with these inflammatory reactions from foods or the environment. And it can go either way, where you start out with the allergy for whatever reason and it keeps causing a reaction in your body, and you're like using all this cortisol to keep dealing with it, and over time your body tires out. Or you get to the point where you have adrenal fatigue and all of a sudden you have all these sensitivities to foods and you're like, what the heck is going on? So likely your body just can't produce enough cortisol to deal with those excess histamines or other things your body might be responding to. And so it's really important to understand that, because really giving your adrenals that rest and support nutritionally, which I'll get to in a minute, is going to help improve your allergic reactions or sensitivities. Okay? I want to talk about nutritional support today, and I'm going to talk more in depth about specifics within the adrenal health category in the future. So if you have any questions, definitely leave them below. Before I talk about nutritional support, I want to say that I don't like to broadly recommend supplements to everyone and say, here's what you need to take, because there's so many variances. Today I'm going to give you some generally well-tolerated, broad nutritional recommendations, okay? With that said, you may need specific tweaks that aren't going to fall under what I'm saying today, okay? So keep that in mind. But generally speaking, from working with many, many, many people, these are the most tolerated and needed items, okay? So the first one that I want to talk about today is vitamin C. Our adrenal glands actually contain a really high concentration of vitamin C compared to all other organs in the body. And it's required for adrenal hormone production. It's actually going to be released from our adrenals in, these hormone responses. So every time we are getting stressed, we're using up our vitamin C. And it's really, really hard to store a lot of vitamin C in our body. We kind of can't really store very much. So it's so important to make sure we're getting it every single day, because we're just not going to be able to store the amount that we're going to need every time we hit a stress response, okay? So, that said, if you guys have been around at all reading my stuff or following me or hanging out in here, you know that I only recommend the whole food C, not ascorbic acid. And I have a whole podcast about that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it right now, but whole food C. So what does that mean? It could be, foods that are rich in whole food C, or it could be a whole food C supplement. And one of my favorites is the Garden of Life. It's like raw vitamin code. And you could take that twice a day. Generally speaking, that would be okay for most people. If for some reason you have some weird reaction, if you try to start adding vitamin C, just stop and only use a little. There are some people who have deeper seated health conditions that can't really do vitamin C very well. Most people, it's fine. Okay? So I just really want to make sure that you guys understand when I'm making supplemental recommendations, you know that I know they're not perfect for every single person right where they're at. So just keep that in mind. But vitamin C is a big one. And then cholesterol. So healthy fat. This is something that has been demonized forever. And I know those of you who are in here and following me probably already are well educated on healthy fats. Cholesterol is what builds healthy hormones. We really need healthy, good quality fats to have healthy hormones and healthy cells. And it's really important to avoid fats that are not good quality because they really they play no role in our health whatsoever. In fact, they make it harder on us. So good quality fats, good olive oil, coconut oil, animal fats, plant fats, a good variety in your diet. You want to consume those with every meal. Now, I can't tell you how much fat you need. That's going to vary from person to person, but generally speaking, you want to cook in a good healthy fat or incorporate some amount of healthy fat into your meals, okay? Minerals are huge, and that's what this group was founded on, the whole mineral piece. So I'm going to spend a little more time on this, but I do have to say I cannot tell you what minerals you need to take supplementally, okay? Because everyone is going to be completely different. And that's where the hair tissue mineral analysis comes in so handy, is to really specify what you as an individual need. So, but let's get a little bit of an understanding here about the role minerals play in our adrenal health. So again, when stress dominates our body, we actually will lose essential minerals, calcium, magnesium, and it kind of causes an increase in the output of those mineral corticoids. And so we can just lose minerals every time we have stress. And the mineral corticoids are a class of steroid hormones that play a role in our salt and water balance in the body. So there's two extremes. You could have this really elevated, and you could have high blood pressure and you can't really have much salt, or you could be like the majority of people and be in an adrenal exhaustion and your body's like burning through these things and it's really hard for them to hold on to. So you need a lot of salt, you need a lot of potassium in the diet. So over time, these things really just decline in our bodies, and we just need them so much more to feel good. And then we also can have like this inability to absorb the minerals in our intestine. So there's a lot going on when we have this long-term stress response in our body. And then, severe mineral deficiencies can occur over decades and we don't even know it. And then we end up really minerally depleted, and it just takes time to really rebuild. Stress also can change your metabolism and cause your body to retain certain minerals that are needed to stimulate you, and then lose certain minerals that help calm you. So that's another piece. But in the long run, we end up just really having a hard time storing these minerals in our body. Magnesium is a big one. I'll get to that in a minute. But things like excessive exercise, pregnancy, I talked about that, breastfeeding, medication, we can lose minerals, frequent infections, which that's pretty common in people with adrenal fatigue. And they can, cause us to lose a lot of magnesium, which is a major mineral in the body. It supports our, natural ability to balance. So you may find that you get really edgy. So there's so much more about minerals, and I want to say to you, hey, here's how you get minerals in your diet. It's not that easy because our soil has been depleted for so long. So unless your farmer's adding minerals to the soil, it's going to be really hard to get a high enough amount of minerals just in our food. But if you're eating a nutrient-dense real food diet and you're including salt, and you're really taking your time to relax when you eat, chew your food, so that you're breaking it down and absorbing it, you're going to be getting some minerals for sure. It just can be very, very hard to get enough from your diet alone, which is where targeted supplementation can come in. Some people could benefit from short-term taking a multi-mineral. Just make sure you do not get iron and copper, because that's so tricky. So if you're gonna take a multi-mineral, just know it could help support you, but it's not gonna rebalance you per se. And if you do that, you probably should avoid iron and copper. I used to tell people you can get plenty of minerals from your bone broth. We're now seeing actual lab results from the bone broth showing that there's really not as much minerals in there as we might have thought. So if you are in that camp thinking, oh, I get my minerals from my bone broth, you might not be getting quite as much unless you're loading it with really healthy veggies and some salt to add some minerals in there, or maybe some trace mineral drops. That could be helpful as well. So like I said, it's really hard to, through your diet alone, to rebalance you with your minerals appropriately, okay? Let's talk about salt. This is a big one. So I just told you, when you end up in kind of an adrenal exhaustion, your body has a really hard time holding on to salt. And this is because the hormone aldosterone causes the reabsorption of sodium and chloride, and it helps regulate sodium and potassium levels in the body. It also helps with the concentration of magnesium, potassium, chloride in the blood as well. So aldosterone is often compromised in people who have adrenal fatigue. And I see this all the time in the hair analysis, because aldosterone is correlated with the sodium marker on the hair test, and it's the majority of times very low. So when it is low, it's going to cause the body to lose excess sodium and chloride. So like I said earlier, when you're in adrenal fatigue, your body just can't hold on to these minerals very well. And you might find yourself craving salt. And salt's another thing that's been demonized in our culture, unfortunately. And a lot of people are afraid of salt. But if you stuck around in the real food circles and the health circles, you probably have heard, yes, we need salt. Good quality salt is good. So if you crave salt, allow yourself to have that salt. You really need it. It can make you feel a lot better. One of my favorites for those who are definitely feeling that fatigue, if you're definitely feeling a lot of these symptoms that I shared earlier of adrenal exhaustion or weak adrenal activity, definitely have, plenty of salt. I tell people, get a teaspoon in the morning in one of those little pinch bowls and see if you actually use that much throughout the day. Chances are you probably aren't using as much salt as you think. Even if you're like, oh my God, I crave salt, and you're pouring it on everything, you might not be using as much as you think, and you might need a little more. And if that's the case, one of my favorite ways to get that in is through making Soleil, which is just pink salt or sea salt dissolved in water. So easy to make, it takes no time at all. And that turns into like an ionic solution, which is a lot easier for your body to absorb really quickly. And so you could try that and have some in the morning. And I've had so many people tell me, oh my gosh, I added the salt and the Soleil, and it helped my energy levels, or it helped me go to the bathroom, or it increased my metabolism, or whatever. So if you resonate with that, that fatigue and the salt craving, you may want to try that. Magnesium's huge. You guys, I've talked about magnesium a lot in here. If you want to spend more time learning about it, just hit the search bar up top and type in magnesium. There's tons and tons and tons. But it's so critical, and it's involved in hundreds of different body functions. And if you've been under the stress and the depletion state, you probably don't have enough magnesium stored in your body. Magnesium helps build your bones, regulate your body temperature, and release energy stored in your muscles. And it improves your cellular response to insulin, which is huge because there's almost always some type of blood sugar imbalance or insulin dysregulation in people with adrenal fatigue. So it helps you to stabilize your blood sugar. and helps prevent cravings and helps reduce anxiety. And it can help you sleep. So it's like the ultimate chill pill. So I did a video not too long ago about a couple different magnesium products. Definitely check that video out if you want to know more about how to get started with magnesium. That's in here too. Another one that's a really good broad support for most everyone, and there's a little bit of confliction with this, but I'm going to give you my overall general recommendation, and then just keep in mind you may need something more specific. But B vitamins are huge, and they're critical for the entire adrenal cascade. So B vitamins are so important for anybody with adrenal fatigue. And especially if you're slowed down. So if you're definitely lower on the function, energy, metabolism, all these things, you probably could really benefit from a B vitamin. They're even helpful for people who are in fight or flight too, because they're burning up their B vitamins. So I typically recommend a good B complex, and I usually recommend Genestra B complex, I believe it is. But work with your practitioner to make sure you have one that's appropriate for you. And all those B vitamins, B12, B6, so important. I can't really get into that because that's kind of tricky, because there's so many things about those two that need to be specific to the individual. So if you're getting a good B complex, one or two with breakfast, one with lunch, you're at least getting a baseline. Some people need a little more, and they need specific Bs more or less or whatever, and that's not something I can go into with us here. All right, so those are some really broad, basic things about adrenal health, and I want to get into some steps you can take. I'm going to go through 8 of them. All right, so, and I kind of covered them already, but I'm going to say them again. And as I'm saying them, go ahead and comment below which ones you're like, oh, I'm not doing that yet. I need to work on that. Adequate sleep. So for people who are in adrenal fatigue, they may need a little more sleep than most people. So 7.5 hours can be okay, but really if you're really tired, you may need some more than that. So you want to get to bed at a decent hour to allow for that. So adequate sleep is huge, because you can't fully heal when you're not getting that. Okay, number 2, relaxation. Taking time daily, every day. It's so important to have some relaxation, even if it's 30 minutes or 20 minutes. You can't keep up a go pace day in and day out. It's just not going to help your goals of recovery. So you may want to learn, some relaxation techniques. Maybe you need to implement something like that regularly. Deep breathing techniques. Maybe you can get a massage a couple times a month. Listen to relaxation tapes to help you actually sit down and relax. So some people don't know how to do that. Some people have a hard time actually sitting down and being still. You may need a little support if that's you. So maybe find something that helps you to get in that calm place. Meditation, whatever that looks like for you. If you have kids and you don't get a break, you need to figure out a way to get a break. This is important. Find a mother's helper. When your husband gets home, say, I gotta have a 30-minute walk by myself. Once a week, have him take the kids out. You get a night to yourself, whatever. You've got to make this part of your life. You cannot be taking care of people 24/7 and not get to take care of yourself. I'm just going to say that with love. It's so true. It's so important. So please try to get some strategies if you're a mom, especially with littles or you're homeschooling or whatever, to get some time for just you. And then even nature therapy can be great. Sometimes just going for a leisurely walk, even though you're actually physically moving, it can still be very relaxing. So some of those are just some ideas. There's probably more. So whatever, thing that you're going to do to help you to relax. Maybe it's read a novel. Maybe it's lay in your hammock, whatever. whatever it is for you, try to incorporate it pretty regularly. Learning to accept and love yourself so you can receive nurturing and affection from others. And laughing. I talked about the laughing or having fun or just looking at the positive. This is so important. And then exercise for people in more of an adrenal exhaustion is kind of tricky. And you want to move your body. It's so important. But, you're not in a position to push yourself hard. Once you've done some deeper healing, you may be able to tolerate more moderate to some intense exercise. But even just, walking or gentle yoga or Pilates that's not intense or, whatever it may be that's more on the low intensity to maybe a little bit moderate intensity can be okay for you. But starting with that consistency with just the low is perfect. So even if all you're doing is hiking every day or walking every day or gentle rebounding or just a couple low light weights for a few minutes and you're not feeling too exhausted, that's fine. But what I find is the majority of people with adrenal exhaustion just cannot do a whole lot of intense exercise at all, or just crashes them. So it's okay if you can't do that. That's okay. If you're moving and getting that in to even a small degree, that's going to help you. So for a while, I had to give up some of my favorite things, fitness-wise, because I just knew it was affecting me. And remember what I said earlier in the video about that ligament laxity? So your adrenals really want to hold your core together, so to speak. And if you have adrenal exhaustion and you're doing intense workouts like CrossFit or heavy lifting or whatever, I was doing intense kettlebell workouts and I threw out my back so bad. And I kept getting injured. And I finally was like, okay, I have got to listen to my body here or I'm going to really get hurt. And sometimes when you get injured, it puts you out of commission for a while. And nobody wants that. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about how to incorporate fitness into your life, and just go easy on yourself for a while. And you don't have to push hard. Pushing hard is not actually the best type of exercise to do all of the time. And some people prefer that. If that's you, I know this is a hard one for you. I understand that, because sometimes people are looking for the adrenaline and from the hormonal response that they're going to get from the exercise because they don't feel good enough throughout the day. So they use it to stimulate them. All right, so light to moderate exercise. Do not push yourself. That's my fitness advice for people with adrenal fatigue. Getting sun. This is so huge because when we have adrenal fatigue, our moods can really suffer. So anytime you can get some sunshine, it can really help support that. And it's really essential for healthy adrenal function. We need that sunlight to help with our circadian rhythm. So when you can, whenever the sun's out, take a few minutes to get out in it and support your adrenals. Obviously, number 6 is cleaning up your diet, avoiding any food sensitivities you have while you're healing. I don't recommend extreme detox diets when people have adrenal fatigue. It can be too intense. And then avoiding processed foods, trying to eat as clean as possible is going to be important. 7, if you're struggling to get enough progress on your own, you can get tested. I didn't talk about this much today because I want to talk about it in the future, but I use hair tissue mineral analysis because you're going to get that whole mineral piece and understand at the cellular level how your adrenals are functioning, as well as the mineral balance and what minerals you need specifically for you. So that can be really supportive. And then also sometimes people need to look at their hormones. So, getting a really good hormone panel, because a lot of times your sex hormones end up getting out of whack too, and you can look at them all together and really formulate more specifics for you. Because when it comes to recommending adrenal support specifically in terms of glandulars and adaptogens, it can be tricky to figure out what works for everyone without deeper insight about your specific needs at the time. So that really can help hone in on what, specific adrenal support you can take. And then supplemental support. So I mentioned a few things today, a couple of broad things like the B complex, magnesium, whole food C, getting that salt in, trying the Soleil. Those are just a couple, and hopefully those tips help for you. I'm going to be back soon with more on adrenal health. So if there's something that you wanted to hear or have questions about, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, because I do want to make sure I can support you guys, so if there's things that you want to know about, I can include them in my future videos. All right, well, thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching, and again, comments below. I'll be back later to pop in and reply, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.